I'm actually going to start out with maybe going off on if you have ever attended one of Wez's, I suppose, summits or the live training, you would have heard Wez talk about the seasons in business, the summer, winter, autumn, fall. Is it? No, fall's the, yeah, that one. Yeah, obviously.
We're not American audience.
American. I'm married to a Dominican who is very Americanized. So, but there's one thing that there's a funny story that you always share. And actually, I just walked into the office this morning, and you're like, Craig, what do I say are the two warning signs that economic summer is ending? And those two are.
Well, I know them.
It's your joke, so I thought I'd let you say it.
Yeah, so I mean, in fact, I did one of my most successful episodes of KBTV was when I taught about the economic cycles, right? And that was only maybe 2.5 months ago or something. And I said on there, and I've said it from stage, and I've said it to all our clients, the two indicators that tell you that economic summer is going to end are when all of the property spruikers enter the market and do big seminars around the country with no money down real estate. That's the number one. The second indicator that you need to look for to know that economic summer's about to run out is you jump in a taxi and they start giving you investing advice, right? Or you go to a barbecue and your Uncle Bob, who's done nothing good with his life, starts telling you about some hot stock tip. That's when it's time to go, okay, if it's filtered down to that lowest common denominator, it's time to get out and turn liquid because I'm going to go shopping when it goes bad. So I'm not actually prophesying the end. I'm probably saying it's the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
Right? So years. This is not like the world's going to fall apart in 24 months. This is
it's not a 2020 thing.
No, it's not a 2020 thing. It's a 2025, 2027, 2028. I mean, who knows? But it ain't now. But we're starting to see it. And I
think it was in this one.
Yeah, I think it really amazed me, actually, that the story was in the paper. It may actually be here. Let me just... We're so well prepared.
This is why I don't like paper newspapers. There we go.
It's not the only reason. Yeah. So, so we're in the Fin Review, and page 37 today is investors warned of rising spruiker activity. And so when I saw that, I was like, hey, Craig, what are my two things? And he was able to recite them. He took about a 20-second pause, and then he was a good student, and he recited them. And in the story, we've got Margaret Lomas, who, if you've ever studied Australian real estate, you'd know that she's like the queen. And by the way, they're not rubbishing her in this ad. She's the one fighting for reforms. So good on Margaret. But basically, it's saying, here we go, and it talks about the filth of what goes on. These property spruikers, this is pre-GFC last time, they would particularly, they would get $40,000 for selling one residential deal, and then they would sign people up. Then they would get a clip of the mortgage broking and a clip of the property management if it was an investment property. And what they were doing was they were just selling property at ultimate retail prices. Like if the property was worth 500 grand, it was sold for 505. Like it was the absolute maximum. And half of them didn't value up, actually, in the end anyway. Like, I got a terrible story about an Australian bloke who runs a big investment, like, spruiking company. And he would just sell them through seminars. And a friend of mine bought one, came to settlement day. He gets a phone call from the solicitors. You've got to chop in 8 grand today, right now. And he's like, well, how do I get 8 grand? And he's like, well, it didn't value. And in your clause, you can't back out. And he's like, right. So he starts ringing and begging and borrowing off his parents, and he does a deal. And I'm like... far out, these people. Then we need regulation in the industry. Anyway, just to kind of, I always want to be the person that helps you out with the information. Like, you need to not get sucked into these scams. Like, if you're going to go into real estate, don't pay retail for real estate. Don't ever pay retail. Yep. And if it's a no money down real estate deal, you can't afford it. Yep. If the only way you can buy real estate is no money down, you need to rethink your strategy. Because everybody I know that did no money down real estate ended up with no money left.
Well, the problem with no money down is when you buy a property, it's not just the property that you're buying. It's your mortgage insurance, it's the broker's fees, it's everything like that. So you end up paying 110% of what the property is worth, and then you've got 100% equity, but you've got 110% debt.
Now, of course, if it's a massively rising market, you can get away with a little bit of that because by the time you settle, it could be worth 110%.
Yeah.
But what fundamentally, anybody that needs to do a deal with no money on real estate can't afford the deal. They don't have a business throwing off the cash to let them afford to do the deal. That's the big problem. Because then when it turns against them and they can't get a tenant for 3 months and they couldn't afford the house, now they've got to fire sale it at 90% of what they paid for it. So I saw so many friends that were well-meaning and they'd saved up their whole life, started doing real estate, and they had to sell it after the GFC, and they took a bath. And some of them took 6 or 7 years to recover financially. Some of them even more so. And it's like, man, you know, you couldn't afford the deal. Yeah. Bible says if you chase get-rich schemes, you'll end up poor. So that's all that is.
So in watching, like, this is the reason why I want to start out with this one is because it kind of emphasizes the importance of us being on top of the current news. What are some other things that we need to be wary of what we're looking out for, but also our own personal financial activity in preparation for this?
One of the other indicators, one thing to look for is when a bank starts to lend more than 100% to the value of a home. So back in those days of pre-GFC, but you know, I was back in business in Australia in 2004, 5 and 6 in the lead up. You could you could borrow more than the value of a home. So you could borrow 100% of the home, and then you could borrow enough money to pay the legals and furnish it and get in it, and that's when the banks are being super corrupt. Because what they're doing is, in Australia we have recourse lending, which basically means they'll lend the money to you. You can't just back out. In America, if you can't pay your home loan, you just post the keys in and there's no recourse. But here we have recourse. So, you know, like you would look to those banks. I mean, now is a great time to buy real estate in essence because you can get 2.9% locked in for 5 years. Like, it's amazing opportunity.
Like low rates.
Yeah, and if you consider that 3% interest rate is tax deductible, it's really only 2%. You know, and inflation's probably that target. So it's a pretty amazing opportunity that presents itself now. But what do we do? The way I always run is I run in cycles, right? I'm in deals, and then before I think, I'm never trying to maximize every deal. Yeah. I would rather get in one, make money, and get out of one so that I have liquid cash, right? I am more interested in having buffer than I am getting that last few percent out of an opportunity, because the little bit of money you lose, you gain by having money. Because, I mean, let's play it out. Like, if you were to hang on to a real estate deal for an extra 12 months, let's say you picked up, unless it was a growth strategy, let's say you picked up another 20 grand, right? Just by holding, but then the market fell away. If you had sold it 1 year earlier and missed that 20 grand, you've got cash. You can now go and buy that house 50 grand less because it's crashed. So you may lose a little bit, but you gain a little bit more, and you can sleep at night, which is got to be the name of the game.
So you just mentioned there that I like to get into a deal and get out quickly. How do you, because some people may interpret that as like, well, that's that get quick.
I didn't actually say like, quickly. No, I just said get out before the end of time. Like, trying to time it in such a way where it's like, okay, I think it's going to go bad here, so I want to get out before that. Yeah. Rather than be waiting. I don't always want to hop out of deals. Like, I bought real estate in the GFC, and I bought it at 80 cents in the dollar, and I've still got them now, and the tenants have paid them off, and they produce cash every single month. So I'm not trying to always get out of them, but if I was to the next time that there's a big run in real estate up here in Queensland, because New South Wales and Melbourne have already had theirs and still having theirs, but we haven't had it up here. Next time there's a big run up here, if I was to hop in to try and do a run of like prices going up, that's where it's dangerous, because you can time that really wrong. Yeah. Whereas if you just do straight up buy and hold, you really can't get it wrong, right?
So long-term strategies.
So the houses that I bought went down in value for a few years, 5-6%, nothing crazy, but they did, like, it meant nothing to me because I had no intention of selling them. So just long-term play. That's kind of how. But if I was going to do a short-term, right, I'm going to buy houses, hold them for 2 years. Hopefully they go up and get out. I'm always trying. I would rather shorten that than hang on and get caught.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of the economic summer and what it means for your business? Just being wary of where you're putting your money and what you're investing in at that time.